Hey guys, tonight I am going to be doing a review on this. This is a Baofeng UV-5R V2+. It is a handheld dual band amateur radio, and the reason I bought one of these is that I was looking for an inexpensive replacement for a unit and Bearcat scanner I had that died a couple of months back. And recently I went on an off-road trip with a bunch of friends, and they had purchased these radios to use as communications on the trip, and quite frankly I was impressed with the radio's capabilities. Considering its price. So I decided to go ahead and pick one up and play with it a little bit and set it up for use as a scanner, and who knows, maybe it'll replace my more expensive radios for communications on my off-road trips. So I'm going to do the unboxing and assembly and setup of this radio, and we'll go ahead and do some transmission tests and things like that with it. And then I'm also going to go over how you find frequencies that are specific to your area where you live, and how to use the Chirp software to program these into your radio. I'll go ahead and set it up for my local area, but the procedure will be the same for you wherever it is that you live. Just a little bit about me. I've had my amateur radio license now for I think about 7 years, and I have my technician's license. The technician's license is the entry level into amateur radio. Really though, it grants you permissions to transmit on the most common frequencies, and I've never really felt the need to upgrade to the general. Not what you would consider an enthusiast. I don't sit in my basement with a stack of electronics and talk to people around the world every night. I have played around a little bit with the repeaters that are locally in my area and talk to people on those, but really I don't use it that often. The most frequent use that I use my amateur radio license for is for communications on trips when I'm driving in a caravan with other people. The VHF radios work quite a bit better than CBs do. You can talk over a much longer distance and get much clearer voice communications over the handhelds when compared to the CBs. Now, before I get started on the actual review on this radio, I wanted to take just a minute to touch on the legal issues that go along with owning it. I'm not going to stand up on my soapbox and preach to everyone and tell them don't break the law, but I do want to make people understand that there are some legal issues that go along with owning this radio. This is classified as a dual band amateur radio. It works on the 2 meter and 70 centimeter frequencies, and inside of those frequencies are several blocks of frequencies that are set aside by the FCC for specific uses. Things like marine, aircraft, railroad, public service like police, fire, and EMS, amateur frequencies, FRS, GMRS, it's like those little blister pack handheld radios that you can get at your local Walmart, also MERS, and there's probably some other ones I'm not thinking of. But this radio right here, this is classified as an amateur radio, which means that it can only be used to transmit on the amateur frequencies. Things like MERS, that's an unlicensed frequency. You don't need a license to transmit on those MERS channels. But because this radio is not certified to transmit on MERS, you can't use it for that. Same thing goes with FRS and GMRS. You can buy those little blister pack radios. GMRS is actually licensed. You need a license to transmit on those. FRS is not. It has specific power requirements. So you can buy those radios and you can use FRS to talk to each other with no problem, but you cannot use this radio to talk with those little handhelds. And that's just the way the FCC rules are written. If you're going to transmit on a specific block of frequencies, the radio has to be licensed to use on those frequencies. Another good example is, like I said, I'm the assistant chief of my fire department. This radio has the ability to talk through our repeater that we use out here and to the other handhelds and trucks and our fire dispatch. Even though I'm the assistant chief on the fire department, I can't use this radio to transmit on the fire frequencies because it's not certified as a public service radio. So the next question that people would obviously ask is, if I do buy one of these radios and I transmit on a frequency that it's not licensed to transmit on, am I going to get in any trouble? Well, honestly, probably not. If you're not being a nuisance, denying someone else use of frequencies, or doing something foolish like transmitting music, or just generally being an annoyance on the radio, no one's ever going to complain, and the FCC is probably never going to catch you doing it. With that being said though, my personal feeling is widespread misuse of radio systems will probably eventually lead to the FCC trying to enforce the existing legislation and maybe even passing new legislation that makes it more difficult for us to own these radios. So my advice is, if you're going to buy one of these radios, don't use it to transmit on frequencies that it's not okay to transmit on or that you're not licensed for. So that's enough on the legal stuff. I'll get off my soapbox now. Just make sure you guys understand that there is some issues. You can't just grab one of these radios and transmit on any frequency that you want.
And these are the items that I purchased from Amazon. I got the actual radio itself, and then I got this programming cable right here. It's a USB programming cable. Came with the driver CD. And then I got this lapel mic right here. So let's go ahead and unbox this thing, take a look at it, and go ahead and set up the charger and get it charging. So we got our actual radio right here. Got a belt clip. Got our battery. Cradle charger. And our antenna. And whenever I get new radio, I like to put the antenna on very first thing before I do anything else, just so I don't accidentally transmit without the antenna on. In this particular setup, uses an SMA type connector for the antenna. Let me go ahead and put the battery in. That's it. First impression, this thing appears to be fairly well built. It's not a, doesn't seem like a really cheap chintzy Chinese radio. I'd say it doesn't quite have the same heft or quality feel that my Yaesu handhelds have, but really it's not bad considering the price. Alright, well, we got our red light on, so we'll go ahead and let this sit and charge until the charge is complete. We'll go ahead and fire it up and start using it. Well, it took about 2.5 hours, but this radio is all charged up and ready to go. We'll go ahead and turn it on and see what we get. That's pretty funny. So the radio is talking to us in Chinese. Obviously that's not very useful. I don't speak Chinese at all. But even if it was talking in English, that would really be annoying. So we're going to see if we can get rid of the voice inside the programming software. But you can see this thing has a backlit screen, and it's pretty easy to read. The display is nice and bright and clear. This radio actually has the ability to listen in on 2 frequencies at the same time. You can see this top and this bottom line here, and you change which one you're transmitting on with this AB button right here. You can see that little arrow points toward the one that you're going to be transmitting on. And this radio also has the ability to store 126 frequencies in its memory, and you switch between direct frequency tuning or VFO tuning and the memory frequencies by this VFO MR button. And so we'll go ahead and hook this up to the computer. We'll look up local frequencies here in my area and program these into the radio and see if we can make a couple of changes to the settings in it and get rid of that voice. Well, I've already got the programming cable plugged into my computer right here, and went ahead and installed the driver CD. I'm not going to go through doing the driver installation. That's going to be different, specific based on the operating system that you're using. So we've got our cable right here. We'll go ahead and plug it into our radio. Okay, the first thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to go to the Chirp webpage and download the Chirp software. And I will go ahead and put the link to this in the video description. but basically it's chirp.danplanet.com, and this will take you to the website for Chirp, and then you just click on the Get It button, and then you download the Chirp software that corresponds to whatever your operating system is. You can see right here it's got Windows standalone, Mac OS X, Linux, etc., etc. So, and I'm running Windows 7 on here. So you'll download the software and install that. And then once you're done, go ahead and open it up. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to download the program that's existing on the radio. We're going to take a look at the settings and stuff that are in there from the factory. So I'm going to click on download from radio. I happen to be using COM3. Yours might be different. So make sure the setting's correct for your computer. It does show you this warning that's right here. It says this radio's driver is experimental. Do you want to proceed? Obviously, yes, we'll need to proceed here. Okay, so this shows the memories that are in here. Right now it's got no memories programmed in. In the settings tab that's right over here, this shows all the settings that are actually in the radio. This shows the squelch level, battery saver, backlight timeout, etc., etc. We'll go ahead and make some changes to this. This is the first one I wanted to change right here, where it says voice Chinese. We're going to turn that off. Okay, so that's off now. So now we won't be hearing that annoying voice anymore. These settings all here are pretty self-explanatory. You can play with each of these and decide how it is that you want your radio set up. What I'm going to do though is I'm going to have display mode A on frequency and B on name. And the reason I'm going to do that is that way I can look up the actual frequency that each of my channels is programmed to. These settings right here, I went ahead and just programmed my name in right here, so when the radio first comes on it says welcome and Matt. Right here you can change the limits for your transmit and receive. And obviously I got my lower limit set at 130 megahertz and my upper limit set at 176 megahertz. That's for the VHF band. For the UHF band I've got lower limit at 400 megahertz and the upper at 520. Now if you're only planning on using this as a scanner, I would actually suggest that you uncheck these boxes right here where it says VHF transmit enabled and UHF transmit enabled. Now since I do have my amateur radio license, I'm going to leave them checked. And that way I'll be able to use this radio to transmit on the amateur frequencies. Okay, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to look up frequencies that are specific to your local area. And the website that I like to use for that is radioreference.com. And again, I'll put the link to this in the video description. What you do is once you've got the web page up, you go to databases and then click on frequency database. And then you click on your state. I live in Oregon. And then your county. I live in Clatsop County. So now down here it lists all the frequencies that are licensed by public agencies in Clatsop County. You can see here we have the Clatsop County Sheriff's Department, Medics Ambulance, North County Fire Department, Astoria Police, Cannon Beach Fire and Police, etc., etc. And my fire department uses this frequency right here for our dispatch, the Seaside Fire Dispatch. And so once you've found your frequencies local for your area, you'll go ahead and take the Chirp software, and I'm going to program my fire dispatch frequency into channel 1, so 154.385 right there. Right here, this tone right here is called Continuous Tone Coded Squelch System, CTCSS. And what that does is if the radio has that programmed into it, it actually won't receive what the other radios are transmitting to it unless they're transmitting the tone, the corresponding tone that goes along with it. If you're only listening, you really don't need to program this in. if you don't program it in, then you'll basically hear everything regardless of whether or not the tone's being transmitted. So we'll leave this tone mode to none. We'll go ahead and name this fire. Alright, and so now we have our fire department frequency programmed in. If I wanted to do the medics ambulance dispatch up here, this 155.895, go here, 155.895, then I can name it medics, and now that frequency is programmed in. And I would continue for all of these frequencies that go down here. And then I might also want to program in frequencies for adjoining counties like Columbia County, Washington, and Tillamook, if I want to go ahead and scan those. That might be useful if I'm driving through those neighboring counties. Basically, you can set up different files for different locations. In other words, if I was going to be spending a week, say, in Crook County down here, I might want to not use my home radio setup. All these Clatsop County frequencies aren't really going to do me any good if I'm down here in Crook County, so I might want to go ahead and program all of these frequencies in right here for Crook County, and that way I can listen to what's going on when I'm down there. So anyway, I have my own radio configuration already set up right here, so I will go ahead and open that up. As you can see right here, I have, for my first channel, I have my fire repeater, Fire Direct, Oregon State Fire Marshal, the LC Fire Department, medics, the HEAR frequency to talk to the hospital, tactical channels, things like that. So now I will be able to scan and listen to all of these frequencies here. And then we will go ahead and upload this to the radio. Now those settings are in the radio, we can go ahead and unplug it and test it out. Alright, now we've got the radio disconnected from the programming cable, and we'll go ahead and turn it on. And you'll notice now that it doesn't have an annoying voice there. So you can see these are some of the frequencies that I have programmed in here. On the bottom right here I have Oregon State Police, and then on the top, actually channel 17, I'm displaying the frequencies on the top instead of the names, but that's actually the Seaside Police Department. So what we'll do is we'll just go ahead and leave the radio set up here on those frequencies, and if there's any activity on those police frequencies, we'll hear it come over the radio.
Seaside going out of service. Dispatching Seaside Rescue for a possible code 99.
So if we wanted to listen to one frequency all the time and go ahead and scan the rest of the programmed frequencies that are in here, we can actually do that. We hold down the asterisk button right here for a few seconds. So you can see now it's still monitoring the Seaside Police Department frequency on the top, but it is scanning all of the other memories. I have found that the scan feature on this is a little bit slow compared to my other handhelds. So you would probably want to avoid scanning all of your memories, because you'd certainly miss some activity on some of the channels if you do that. And maybe just pick 5 or 10 of them to scan. So that's it. So now we've got a programmed and fully functional radio that can listen in on all the public service frequencies, and also has my own preference for amateur frequencies programmed into it. I actually own several Yaesu handheld radios. I have this VX7R that's right here, and I also have an FT60 and also a VX170, and then I also have an FT8800 that's inside my truck, a mobile radio. So what I'm going to be doing is I've set these two radios up on a 2-meter simplex frequency, so just radio to radio, and I'm going to go ahead and take this VX7 into the other room and transmit to the Baofeng here, and we'll just see how the audio sounds on it. I'm actually going to swap back and forth between the two radios just so we can compare the way that that the radio sounds.
This is K7RKL, just checking to see if this frequency is free for use. This is K7RKL, just checking to make sure that this frequency is not in use. K7RKL. The following will be a short count test to test the audio on the Baofeng radio. 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1. Test complete. K7RKL.
Okay, now that we've tested the audio on the Baofeng, we'll go ahead and see how it compares to the Yaesu here.
The following will be a short count test of the Yaesu VX7. 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1. Test complete. K7RKL.
Well, I realized that my audio test wasn't exactly scientific, but really it wasn't intended to be. I just wanted to compare the way the Baofeng sounds to the way that the VX7 sounds. And honestly, they're pretty close. You know, the $32 Baofeng is definitely a contender as far as radios go. It's certainly, the build quality is not up there with the Yaesu radios that I have, but shoot, it costs 1/10 as much as the VX7 does. So really, I'd say I definitely recommend this radio for a person that's just getting into the amateur radio hobby. This is a great radio to have, and even if you're not intending to use it for amateur radio, it's a really cheap way that you can set up a scanner in your house. So definitely good little radio. One of the accessories that I use, I have this set up for my VX7, but this is a RAM mount. It's a finger grip mount, so you can actually put a lot of different devices in here. But this will actually hold the Baofeng radio just fine. As you can see, it's got a suction cup right here on the back, and basically it's just got some spring-loaded fingers that hold the radio into place. Like I said, I have it set up for my VX7, but this could be tailored more toward this particular radio. But as you can see right there, it holds the radio pretty securely. Got the suction cup so you can put it on your windshield. It's very handy when you have it in a vehicle. Well, that does it for my review on the Baofeng UV-5R V2 Plus amateur handheld radio. Hope you found the video useful, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up. Thanks for watching.